Hey, Ken. It's amazing to have you on Nail the Sale podcast. I would love for everybody who is actually listening to us, they know as of now, this is actually a right place to know about sales psychology and closing techniques, like hacking them, mindset and everything. And I try my level best to bring underdogs who are the best. Most people don't know them. And I have a lot of people actually know them as well. So today I have Ken with me with vast experience in sales. And Ken, I would love to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us like a little bit about what your background is. What's your story?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And yeah, so my background is everybody can see I'm not 25 years old, so I've got probably a more extensive professional background than some of your listeners. So it goes back a ways, but I before I ever got into corporate America, I spent over a decade in the Marine Corps and did quite a few different things there. But when I got into corporate America, I kind of fell into sales and I kind of fell into the technology space. So neither one should have actually happened. I just happened to have a guy I met who owned a business in the software training industry, and he liked veterans and figured what we didn't know he could teach us, and we would be able to execute on that. So
Yeah.
that was kind of how I got my start in the tech space. Spent 20 years in the B2B space, most of it in the SaaS tech
Amazing.
space. And was a top producer for a lot of years, almost 7 years with one company that was or still is in the marketing automation slash email space.
Okay.
And I think 6 out of the 7 years I was there, I was their top producer.
Amazing.
Also, I was with another company that was in that software training space. I was with them for a decade. And
Mm-hmm.
during that time, spent most of it on the leadership side. Probably hired and trained, 250 salespeople during that time. We had a lot
Wow.
of different locations, training center locations, and ran, a number of sales teams. And then eventually, because of, some stuff I had going on with one of my kids at the time, and this was a while back, I really needed to be able to work remotely at least part of the time. And this was back in the day when working remotely was not really a thing. So I kind of had to
Yeah.
prove myself, to my boss, and it caused me to get out of leadership and get into the individual contributor side of things again. And
Mm-hmm.
so um, it ended up working out. It kind of got me off that sales leadership path, but it worked out from a family perspective. I did some sporadic sales training along the way. One of the companies I was with just asked me because I was their top producer. They just asked me at a sales kickoff, hey, would you mind putting together the curriculum and training we had an enterprise sales team and a mid-market sales team.
Yeah.
There's probably about 18 people in the mid-market sales team, and they asked me if I would train them.
Okay.
So that kind of got me started. I mean, I did quite a bit of training in the Marine Corps. I was actually a DI while I was in, so I spent
Oh, okay.
3 of those years training recruits. So I think it's kind of where I kind of whetted my appetite around the training side. And then, of
Yeah.
course, I loved sales, and
Yeah,
and
that's
so
where you realize you're good at training too. Like that's one other skill as well.
yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, you can take the exact same curriculum, if you will. Not that I necessarily train off of, specific curriculum, but,
Hmm.
I have in the past. And you can give the same curriculum to three different sales coaches, and, you
Absolutely.
can get three different results, right? Because conviction
True.
goes a long way. It's like, do you really believe in what it is that you're teaching? Have you done it yourself? Have you actually, executed these strategies personally? There's a number of factors that go into it, but Yeah, and then and so that took me all the way up until I actually got out of sales for a while and ran my own tech recruiting firm for about 7 years,
Hmm.
and I was recruiting mid-market enterprise sales folks as well as sales engineers, kind of on the pre-sales side for tech companies in the SaaS space, and then yeah, I mean probably about 2.5, 3 years ago kind of started dabbling around in the high ticket space. But
Yeah,
for
now
sure in
we
the
are
high ticket,
talking.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said now we are talking.
Yeah. So, and and quickly realize that there is a very, very strong need for some common sense sales coaching in that space, right? There's a lot of people that, for whatever reason, maybe they don't feel like they can get any traction in the B2B space, in corporate
Okay.
America, don't want to start off as an SDR, or that's not a bad gig.
Okay.
But just kind of jumping right into the high ticket space,
Hmm.
there's definitely an obvious lack of, I don't want to say talent, right? Talent is really kind
Yeah,
of relative to the training people have had, but there's a lack of training. A lot of people out there could probably be a lot better, could make more money if they just had a better process, a better mindset, right? There's a lot that goes into that, but yeah, and so that kind of brings me up to today, where I just decided to kind of go all in on the sales coaching side and just try to help as many salespeople as I can. I mean, at the end of the day, that's my goal, right? Is just try to help elevate people and their skill set, and just get them where they can make the kind of money they need to make to be able to support their families. Because let's be honest, if you're selling in the high ticket space, you're probably selling as a full commission salesperson. I'm a
absolutely.
guy who used to sell as an enterprise guy in the B2B space. So, I've had a base salary as a
Yeah,
salesperson as high as, 140, 150K
yeah,
plus double, on target earnings if I'm at plan, right? So that's not
absolutely.
the high ticket space. That's not the way it works, obviously. And
I was about to ask you about that. Like, that was my very next question was coming. Like, a lot of people think high ticket sales is just about like having the right script, but I found it's way more about like positioning and psychology. So, in your experience, what truly separates like high ticket sales and enterprise sales and any other B2B kind of sales? You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, so I would say the main differences in, well, for starters, B2B, you're selling to principals within a corporation, and they're representing the company, not necessarily their personal interests. Their personal interests do come into play to some extent, but not like it does in the high ticket space, where you're primarily talking to individuals. And you have this thing in any kind of sales, which is you've got somebody's current state, and that could be an individual's current state, like where their life is today. And then you could also be a company, like what is the current state of that company. And then you have the future state of kind of where they would like to see. When we're talking about high ticket sales now, you're talking about individuals. Where would they like to see their life in 6 months, in 1 year, in 5 years? Like, what does that look like? And then it's that space in between kind of their current state and what that future state looks like in their mind. That's kind of where the value is found. And so there's a saying in sales, which is that, if you can't find a problem to solve, then there's no sale to be made. And I
Yeah.
subscribe to that philosophy. And so you
Mm,
really just have to, there's a different cadence and flow, to answer your question, to high ticket sales than there is in B2B sales. B2B sales can be more process driven. And I won't get into
more
all.
long cycle,
It can be
right?
long cycles. I mean, it can be over a year in some cases,
Yeah.
depending on how complex the solution or product is that you're selling. how large the
True.
company is, right? I mean, there's a lot of pieces to that, which we probably don't want to get into here today. But on the high
Hmm.
ticket side, it's quicker. It's a faster cadence. It's really digging to get to the heart of what has motivated that individual to want to book a call in the first place. What problem or change, what problem are they trying to solve, or what change are they trying to make within their life? And what have they already tried? How did that work out for them? Probably not great, or they wouldn't be talking to you. And then being able to position whatever it is you're selling relative to that problem or that need or that change, and making them understand that, not only can this solve the problem you're trying to solve, but also explaining to them and helping them understand the cost of inaction. If you don't do
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
then what changes and what is this costing you in terms of whether it's money, whether it is time with your family, the whole time freedom thing. So, but you just have to learn to be, um, you know, to be good at digging up those answers and really understanding the person you're speaking with. And it's going to be different on every call. So, yeah, those are probably the main
Absolutely.
differences.
And I read a lot of your blog posts that you post on your Facebook, and I believe like trust is everything in high ticket sales. And you only got just like 45 minutes or maybe 60 on a sales call, right? So
Right.
you're not just selling a product, you're selling belief and the transformation, right?
For sure.
So how do you build that trust quickly with a prospect, especially when there is skepticism as well?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's
Yeah, I
one
know
of
your word
the
tracks as well, so
what's
that's why I
that?
asked.
Sorry, say that again.
I said like I know your word tracks too that you post sometimes on your socials. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I asked this question. How would you tackle that?
Yeah, I mean, for starters, I mean, to state the obvious, and it should be obvious, it isn't to everybody out there. I mean,
Hmm.
we all know that the high ticket space is fraught with its own issues, right? There
Yeah,
are
yeah.
bad offers out there. There's plenty of good ones, but there's bad offers. There are snake oil salesmen out there. People are over promising and under delivering. So there is a there's a inherent skepticism in
Hmm.
the people you're getting on the phone with.
Hmm.
They're already kind of in a defensive posture. They already know you're going to try to sell them. And so building that trust can be difficult. Some of the ways, a couple of different ways that you can build trust with folks is number one, be completely transparent. So,
Okay.
don't all of kind of the sales platitudes, the different
Yeah.
strategies, these folks are being taught to, to,
Hmm.
to sell a product. I mean, first of all, here's a good example. If let's say that you're selling, I don't care what it is. I'm not going to pick an industry. I don't want to pick on any industry. But let's say whatever it
Let's
is
say
you're
like just
selling.
coaching and consulting. Let's say you're
What's
selling
that?
coaching, just simple. Simply,
Well,
let's say
yeah.
that it's just
So
coaching.
for coaching, so coaching is a little bit different animal, right? Because even as somebody, coaching kind of goes against the point I was going to make, and I'll explain why. If you're selling coaching and somebody says, and let's just say that you're charging, just to take a round number, $10,000, right, to coach somebody,
Hmm.
and they say, I don't have that money, then you could easily come back to that person and say, based off of what you know about them, you could say, well, what is it costing you to not get any coaching, to stay exactly where you are, keep getting the exact same results you've been getting? If I'm talking to you 12 months from now and we don't do anything, have you lost
Mm.
more than the cost of the coaching? Because if I can't get the $10,000 back in your pocket, within, 90, 120 days, then what are we even doing here, right? Like, you made a bad call working with me, and I overpromised and underdelivered. So
Yeah.
that, that's a little bit different animal there, where even if you didn't have the money, I would probably, if I felt like you were a good coaching prospect, I would probably really encourage you to go find it. Go talk to a parent, a family member, maybe consider borrowing it. Like, it's going to be worth it to you in the end.
Mm.
But if we're talking about an offer in the high ticket space where you're selling, I don't know, I will pick one. Let's say you're selling a done for you ecom store, and
Okay.
the
Yeah.
cost is $40,000, and I'm speaking with somebody, and I find out that they're in a really bad financial state right now. I'm not selling it to them. I mean, I'm simply going to tell them to
True.
walk away. I'm going to say, this is not the right thing for you right now. You're going to put yourself in a really big hole. It's going to take longer for you to start seeing a return than what you're going to be able to withstand. And you're not going to be able to sleep at night. And this is just not going to be healthy for you financially or emotionally or really even physically. So come back to me when you're in a better situation, and let's talk and see if it's right for you at that point. But people are being taught out there, sell at all costs. I don't care what you have to do.
Yeah.
Send them to somebody
Yeah.
that'll loan them the money. They're already
That's right.
$20,000 in debt, right? It's just like, it's not the right way to sell. That's not selling with integrity. That's not being transparent with people. And it's not having people's best interest at heart. It's having your commission check as your number one priority. And if
True.
that's how you sell, then I would encourage folks like that to go find another profession, because you're never really going to
Mm.
find the success you're looking for. And even if you did, you're not going to feel
Absolutely.
great about it.
Ken, I have a concern. Like, I really wanted to, I don't do that by myself. I do it differently, but I really want to know your version of it. I wanted to ask like some experts. I asked a couple of people the same question as well. I want to know what your take on it. So there is like a well-known expert in the industry. They say qualify the objections in the first 5 minutes of the call or let them go. Just in the first 5 minutes, don't waste your time rather than wrestling till the 45 minutes and then no, they don't have money available or they need to think about it. They need the logistic issues and all that. But what I think is like, if I don't know anything about them, right? And they don't know the offer, they are not fully aware of it as of now, right? Within first 5 minutes, because there are different sales processes, right? Some people just book a call with like a 5 minutes VSL, right?
Right.
Some people book a call with a setter. Some people book a call with like pre-call process is different for a lot of people, right? So yeah, right now I am working with Dan Henry, right? Dan Henry, what he does is like he does a webinar. He does like a paid presentation for 5 days, right? He so the people I speak with, they're already very well nurtured, right?
Right.
So, I mean, the only concern they have is like these objections. I cannot afford it. I don't have money available. I cannot be resourceful, logistics issues, time issues, and stuff like that, right? And that's
Right.
that's where my expertise came in, and I handle those objections and I get them on board. So, what's your logic, or what's your turn on this? Like getting them qualify in the first 5 minutes, or let them go.
Well, I tend to be kind of in line with your school of thought. I mean, I don't know how you can qualify somebody on an offer, whether it's a solution, a product, whatever it is,
I mean,
if
again,
they
it's
don't.
not my school of thought. It's not my school of thought. It's a
What
school
I'm
of thought
saying,
of an expert. Yeah.
yes. So
So
it sounds
I'm
like you
just
don't
trying to
agree with
ask.
it. And I would say that I agree with your disagreement. So
Oh, okay.
I don't believe that you can, I've never sold that way. I would never teach anybody to sell that way.
Hmm.
I don't know how you could qualify somebody qualify all their objections if they don't even know what it is they would object to. So if you're going to do that, like the biggest thing that would come up, if you, to me, and again, I've never sold that way and I wouldn't, but if I was to try to kind of expose whatever objections they're going to have right out of the gate, well, I know one of them, of course, is going to be, well, what does this cost? Well,
True.
stating price that is not relative to any value in somebody's mind is going to kill almost all of your deals, right? It's like you're just throwing a number out. It isn't relative to any kind of value. And so how would they be able to say yes to that or say no to that? They wouldn't, the odds are they're going to say no, right? Because they don't really know what they're getting for that. I sell differently. I believe in the theory of stacking yeses. And here's just an example outside. I mean, look, it's not outside of sales, but just a simple example. Let's say that you are in, let's say that you're in a particular state. Let's say Wyoming. We'll just
Yeah.
pick one. And you meet somebody, and
Okay.
you're a realtor. And so
Okay.
you meet them, and you say, "Hey, so have you been in Wyoming long, or you new here?" And they say, "Yeah, we're new. We just moved here." "Oh, how do you like it?" "I like it a lot." So that's a form of a yes. What do you think about the weather? Do you like the weather? "Yeah, the weather's great. It's a little windy, but a lot of sunshine." "How about that mountain view? You like that?" "Yeah, love that mountain view." "Great. So you guys own a place?" And they say, "No, not yet." "And so are you guys looking for a place? You looking to buy a home?" So it's just the stacking yeses and stacking yeses, which you can do in any type of sale, so that when you actually get to what it is you're trying to sell, they're much more inclined to say yes. If they say no to one
I
of your
mean,
questions,
what I think is like $10,000 is going to be $10,000 no matter how many yeses you get. At the end, they can say no to the $10,000. You know what I mean?
they can.
What is your thought about that?
Well, so they certainly can, and that's kind of where, I mean, that goes a little bit deeper, I think, but that kind of starts with, kind of digging into why they wanted to be on the call in the first place, what it is they're
Yeah.
trying to accomplish, what they've
Yeah.
tried up to this point, right? So the $10,000 has to be relative to specific value. And as a salesperson, you have to build that value throughout the call, so that when it comes time to say, "And for this, we charge 10K," they have to hear that $10,000 and think, "Well, that's not bad considering what I'm going to get for this." But
Yeah.
if you fail to build that value, and listen, stacking yeses is not a magic, it's not magic.
Yeah, now I got it. Now I got it. We have to do half the work in the discovery part, and then we stack those yeses, and then we go with like a positioning them in a place where they're already motivated, and now they are seeing the clear value, and it's just like bridging the whole gap, right? And they're already seeing that, okay, this his offer is like a helicopter that will just pick me from here, and we will just pass the bridge and will drop me there, right? So,
Yes.
it will take less time, and it will be faster as well. So yeah, I totally understand that. Very juicy question. I need to think about it. It's too expensive, and so we all handle that, right? But I would love to hear your go-to framework for overcoming like those objections, specifically the price objection, because that's where it comes to an end.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, that's a common one, obviously. I mean, I like to answer objections with questions, at least up front. So if somebody was to tell me, that something is too expensive, first thing I would ask them is, well, why do you say that? Because I want to know kind of how they're thinking, like in their mind, what are they comparing that number to, right? So that can be helpful. It can be clarifying, at least for me as the salesperson. You also want to remember, a lot of people don't understand the power of explaining to somebody, or at least kind of, eliciting it from them. What is it costing you to do nothing, right? So it's that cost of inaction. And so right away, when salespeople hear a money objection, they immediately start thinking, I've got to make this $10,000 not seem like a lot of money. And that's one way to view it. And you can do that with, some different strategies, but you first have to understand kind of in that person's mind, what are they comparing the $10,000 to? Is it just simply, I don't have the $10,000 in cash. I don't want to put the $10,000 on a credit card. Like, do they feel like the return they're going to get from the $10,000 is going to be worth it? Like, is the value there in their mind? Because that's a different objection. That's just simply, I don't have the money right now, in which case you could send them to a funding partner or something like that. But if they're like, no, I don't
Any
even think
resources,
it's
yeah,
worth
absolutely.
yeah. But if they say, I don't even think this is worth $10,000, then that's a completely different issue. And that's probably a problem on the part of the salesperson who just did not do a good job of building the value throughout the sales call. So you might have to back up and do that again, before you get them off the phone and you lose the sale. However, the cost of inaction a lot of times can be more effective than, trying to get them to believe that the $10,000 is a good bet. Not moving forward, not figuring out a way to come up with that $10,000 is actually going to cost you this. And so then it starts to make a little more sense to them that, well, you're right. And I love to ask people what I said earlier. It's like, listen, if you and I are talking in 12 months, you don't move forward with me, you don't move forward with anybody, you basically do nothing. Where are you going to be at that point? How much money will you have lost if you don't move forward with somebody? It doesn't have to be me, but if you don't move forward with somebody, take some action, where are you going to be in 12 months? And, and that, I think that evokes some interesting kind of emotional responses from potential buyers, and it causes them to maybe think about it a little bit differently. So, unfortunately, I can't give you like, just say this to them, because everybody's going to be different. And I don't know what the rest of the conversation was, but, those are just some ways that I handle the pricing objection.
Amazing. The question I'm going to ask is going to bring you clients. So a lot of sales professionals, struggle with rejection and self-doubt. Used to be there as well. Even if they're skilled closers and appointment setters, even coaches, consultants, whoever are trying to sell themselves, right? Sell their products or services. I always say like mindset is like half the game, right? So how do you coach people to push past fear and stay in control of the sale?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So I'll give the listener something to think about. Like if anybody doubts how important mindset really is, think about this. If you teach the same sales system to 10 different salespeople who sell the exact same product or service for the exact same offer, since we're talking about the high ticket space, they report to the same sales leadership, but you get 10 different results. Is it the sales system that's the problem, or is it the mindset of the salespeople who are executing that sales system? Right? So I think the answer is obvious. It's the mindset of the salespeople who are executing it, because some are gonna crush it with that sales system and some are gonna fail at it. And so then what does it come down to? It comes down to mindset. So it's a huge thing with salespeople, and it's something that I absolutely address when I coach folks. And it's like this, right? So a coaching program is really about them. It isn't about me, right?
Absolutely.
All I do I ask way more questions than I do, directing people what they should be doing, right? I'm more like a sales therapist where I ask a lot of questions. I do less speaking, a lot more listening, because my role is not to overwhelm salespeople with my expertise, and then condescendingly advise them, on how they should be selling just to prove to them how smart I am. That's not an effective
Hmm.
way to coach people. I like to hold up a mirror in front of them and force them to confront the things that are holding them back. Mindset's a
Mm.
huge one. And then hopefully,
Absolutely.
lead them to, create realizations and breakthroughs on their own. So that's kind of
Great.
how I approach it. So, like I said, it's
Amazing.
about them. It's about their self-limiting beliefs. It's about how they're holding themselves back, the lies
Mm.
they tell themselves about money. I'm
Yeah.
basically just that mirror to, to help them identify the gaps in their process, and then how they interact with, the leads that they're trying to close. So it goes into a lot of different things, right? With mindset, it's imposter syndrome, which everybody knows about. But what a lot of people don't know is that almost every single person deals with it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
do I deserve to be here? Do I deserve to make, $30,000 a month? I've never done that before. Why do I think I could? I came from a family that never made more than
Mm.
$60,000 in a year. Who am I to think I
Yeah.
can make this kind of money, right? It's,
Right.
it's maintaining parity on your calls. It's not, so many salespeople go into a sales call and they immediately go into it with a defensive posture, which is selling to not lose the deal versus selling to win the deal, right? Completely different mindsets. And they subjugate themselves to the person they're speaking with. They feel like that person is more important to them.
Yeah.
It's like, do they believe they belong in the conversation that they're
Mm.
having, or do they feel like they're tagging along, and the other person is kind of taking the lead, right? So, there was just quickly, I'll tell you this. There was a television show that was on a few
Okay.
years back. It was hosted by this guy named Jason Mayhem Miller, who was a UFC fighter, and it was called Bully Beatdown. I don't know if you ever saw it, but
Okay.
very interesting show. And essentially, what they did was very quickly is they would identify a bully, and then
Okay.
whoever he or she had been bullying, they would
Mm.
bring that person or the couple of people they'd been bullied, but had been bullied by this person onto the show,
Oh.
and they would
Okay.
invite the bully to fight a real fighter. So they would basically say, you've been beaten up on these guys that are half your size. How about if you're so tough, you get into the octagon and you fight an actual fighter?
Yeah.
And it was very interesting, right? Because it was a good show. A lot of it, some of it was staged, but some of it was, you could tell, was legit fighting.
Yeah.
And here was the thing I tell people about the difference between an offensive and a defensive mindset. So the bully
Okay.
would get into the octagon, they would be facing a real fighter. And the first
Mm.
round, which I think was 2 minutes, was basically
Mm.
nothing but grappling. So the real fighter was trying to submit them, and they needed to avoid being submitted. So you ask, if you have 100 people in a room and you say, when the bell rings, what would you do? And most people will say, well, I would run around the ring. I would do everything I could to stay
Yeah.
away from, like, I don't want to get submitted. That's
Yeah.
a defensive mindset. An offensive
That's
mindset
true.
is, I'm going to submit this fighter, is what I'm going to do. He's not going to submit me. I'm going to submit him. And yeah, he might
Mm.
be a little better trained than me, but he's not going to expect this. He's going to think I'm going to run and I'm going at him. That is an
Mm.
offensive mindset. That's the mindset of a winner. That is the mindset that salespeople should have when they're on these sales calls. I'm in this to win this deal, assuming I can do it with integrity. So the offensive versus defensive mindset is a
Mm.
big thing when it comes to all things in life, but for sure in sales. Make
Wow.
sense?
That was epic, actually epic. That
Yeah,
was that kills their self doubts and the rejections and that stuff what they should not have. Like they just need to think like we are born to fight, right? We survived in like most difficult times in our lives. This is just a sales call. That's it.
that's it.
And we that's amazing. The story you told about the television, this actually blew my mind, and I'm 100% positive this will motivate and help our other sales fellows as well. Hey guys, if you don't know Ken, he's now you know that. Like he's one of the best if you're here till now and listening. I will put all his information, his Facebook, his LinkedIn below in the description. If you are somebody who is aspiring new to the sales or already in the sales but struggling, he's your go-to coach. Be mindful when you're choosing a coach. Just go hit him up, talk to him, and see if that's the best fit for you. I would still recommend. And Ken, thank you. I cannot believe this. Like we are having this kind of conversation on the show. This was one of the best and amazing show. I appreciate it. I appreciate that you just came in.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me on, and appreciate everybody that takes the time to listen to this. And if anybody needs any coaching,
Thank you.
I'm here for you, and hit me up.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, sir.
Hey guys, if you made it till now, I have created a free guide for you that you can use and find high ticket roles, opportunities, or clients using AI. You don't have to do anything. It's all automated for you and it's designed step by step. You can find the link in the description, or if you don't find it, reach me out on the Facebook or Instagram. I'm always there available for you guys. Thank you, and you guys have rest great of the day. Thanks for watching.